Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, the beginning of our Easter week, or what I like to call Holy Week. We call that Holy Week. Resurrection Sunday is coming. Good Friday, obviously, is this Friday, the 2nd. We will be having a 6 p.m. Good Friday service. We hope that you can come out and be a part of that. We'll be taking communion and singing some great songs and just hearing a message about the cross and what that means to us. Also, 2 services on Sunday, 9 a.m. and 10:30. Hope that everybody comes out for that. There will be a small little breakfast about 30 minutes before each of those services. So come out, join us there. So today we get into our text for this Holy Week. And our very first one is out of Isaiah. One of the things I want to say is I like sci-fi. I really do. I don't know why I like sci-fi. Maybe it's because it's the futuristic type of content that it has. Not very many people in my family like sci-fi. I'm pretty much all alone there. And so I like sci-fi movies, obviously. The Star Wars series or, the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey. But sci-fi kind of is a thing that, it captures the imaginative social vision for the future. Sci-fi is one of those things that, like Star Wars, it imagines our future state, what things might be in the future, how things might end up. The state of humanity, the state of, who's going to be in power, good or evil, those types of things. It explores the consequences of current actions. The things we do today matter tomorrow, right? And so sci-fi, you might say sci-fi is in theology what we call eschatological. Eschatological, I've used that word with you guys before. I'm trying to teach you that word. It comes from a Greek word, eschaton. And eschatology is simply a theological word that we use to speak about the study of death, the study of judgment, the study of the final destination of the soul, the final destination of humanity. So eschatology deals with the end. How are things going to end up? Kind of like sci-fi. What do we do today? What actions have happened in the past and today and how's that going to affect our future? And so today's text is what we say is the third eschatological section of Isaiah. Isaiah deals a lot with eschatology. He deals a lot with not the present state of the people of Israel or the earth or all of the nations, but he deals with what is going to happen. What is God going to do in the future? How is this going to all pan out, if you will? And so Isaiah chapter 25, and part of our text today, is what we call the third eschatological section of Isaiah. It operates a little bit like sci-fi, if you will. There is a reality now, but there is a future that will be very different. And so I want to read the text to you, and then I'll just do a couple of things that I see in there to help you out today. And as you focus this week on the cross and the resurrection, and you spend your time reading the text for the week. Isaiah says, "On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meals and the finest of wine." So that tells us right there in verse 6 that God has something so much better than what we have now, that there's something in the future that God is planning and preparing, that God is going to make a way for something better than what we have now. On this mountain, he will destroy the shroud that enfolds all peoples, not just the nation of Israel, but all peoples, the sheet that covers all nations. He will swallow up death forever. The sovereign Lord will wipe away the tears from all faces. He will remove He will remove his people's disgrace from all the earth. The Lord has spoken. That's kind of the way Isaiah would just kind of put an exclamation point on it. This is true because the Lord said it. In that day, they will say, surely this is our God. We trusted in him and he saved us. This is the Lord who we trusted in him. Let us rejoice and be glad in his salvation. So we find out right away that God intends to destroy the shroud of death. According to Isaiah, everyone is headed toward perpetual death because of sin and the way that we live, particularly idolatry. He talks about this veil, this shroud that enfolds all people. What is the shroud? Well, the Hebrew word that he uses for this is a word, maseka, if I'm saying that right, but it is a Hebrew word that when you look up the meaning of it, it literally means sheet. But this sheet is used in the context in other places in Scripture to be somehow like a molten sheet of metal. It's poured out and it creates a sheet of metal that they will then use typically to make idols, especially for making idols and graven images. So like the ones mentioned in Exodus and like the ones mentioned in Deuteronomy, Israel, we know periodically would make these sheets of metal and fold them and bend them and make them into these molten sheets of metal and fashion them into idols that they felt met their needs. And this was the reason that they were in exile. Their distrust of God. They're not keeping the commandment that you shall have no other God, no graven image, no formed image to be their God. And so their idols and their idol worship became a problem for them. The golden calf or idols that we saw in Exodus, right, represent a system of thought. It's not so much that they have these things that they look to, but it creates a system of thought, a system of action, a sacrifice, an understanding of humanity that's wrong. And it's an understanding of humanity that we all live in. And all of it, though, is contrary to what God intends for us. Isaiah here is dealing with this shroud that enfolds all peoples. And he uses a word that they would use to explain a sheet of metal used to make an idol. Golden calves don't just appear in the wilderness. They must be imagined. They must be planned. There must be meetings and conversations and details and how they're going to shape it, what details are going to be a part of it. They must do this. And this is what I want to say to you this morning. Idolatry is hard work. And idolatry leads to death. And here in our text is Isaiah prophesying that God's way is not the way of idolatry, not that we should form our own gods and be our own gods or turn to other things that become idols to us, because that leads to death. Life is found in God. God provides life by an example of a feast, a table that has been prepared for us, our imagined, detailed, worked out ways that we use to save ourselves, to get from life what we think we need, is very similar to what the ancients used to create idols. And we think we don't need God, and that's truly at the core of idolatry. At the heart of idolatry is that we don't need the living God. We can do this ourselves. And this idolatry is like a shroud of death over all people. It is those who wait on the Lord, according to Isaiah. It's those who look to God as for their salvation. Those who look to the Lord and wait on the Lord, he will truly save them, and he will swallow up death. This death that comes through the shroud of idolatry, this shroud that veils over us, that we can't see God, we can't understand God, so we go try to create our own. God comes and he has provided a way for us to know him through the person of Jesus Christ. And God, through him, swallows up death. He destroys the shroud for those who wait on the Lord. Resurrection, in which we are moving toward this week, resurrection power, Jesus' resurrection, his life swallows that up. We can truly serve and look to him as our God and our King, the one who has come to save us. The sovereign Lord will wipe away every tears. He will remove the people's disgrace. And that is what Jesus has done. He's taken that upon himself. And so today, we want to just say, Jesus saves. Jesus saves, that God is for us. He has provided a way for us, that he will remove the shroud that creates death in us, and we can worship him and know him, the true God, the true living God. So dig in this week as we move toward Good Friday. I love you guys. God bless, and